welcome to a new episode. I happened to see this video of one atheist by name Vimo. From the looks, I think he is an Indian, and wish you all the best, Mr. Vimo. And he is basically arguing with another person who is by name Christian Prince over the existence of God. And by the way, from the words and the way this Christian Prince speaking, he is not the real Christian Prince. The real Christian Prince is the one which debates with Muslims, Christians and Muslims, and there is not even one debate which I have seen anybody able to overcome Christian Prince's argument. But this person is also called Christian Prince, well and good. And I think this person, Christian Prince, is not able to answer the questions of Imo. Probably he is underprepared, or maybe the questions are not to his likeness. So after watching this video, it's very small video, it's hardly 16 minutes or little over that. I think I can probably give a response to that. Am I expecting that Mr. Vimo will be convinced? No, I'm absolutely not expecting Mr. Vimo to be convinced by my arguments. But then I'm making this attempt basically for others to see that the atheist point of view has some glaring loopholes. And that's my only point. And I'm not trying to debunk Mr. Vimo in any way, because that is, atheists have different levels. From my understanding, the most extremist of the atheists, they will say that bring God to me and I will believe, which no theist will, even in any point in time, will agree to that. That is an impossibility. So what are the basic evidences which some person with a bit of common sense and acceptability and adjustability can understand? That is the only point which I would like to deal with. So let's get into this video. I'll not show the entire video, but some basic questions which he is asking, which I think I can probably give an explanation. I'm not a guru or anything, and probably my explanation will be found wanting, but still let me try. So let's get in.
It's very silly that when you know, like when you are well aware of the definition of God, or like when
Why
we
are
are
you saying that
literally,
I'm well aware of the definition of God?
because
You
you are
haven't told me
atheist,
any.
right?
You haven't given it to me. This is a
Because
waste
you are
of time.
atheist, right?
Christian Prince, tell me your definition
Mhm.
of God or I'll move on to someone else. It's a waste of time.
So, okay, my definition of God is
Mhm.
someone who created the universe, who is
Created?
outside the universe, who is
Okay.
powerful. Yeah,
Okay. So your definition of God is someone who's outside the universe.
outside the universe, who created the universe, who is all powerful, all good, all kind, who
How
is
do you know such
personal,
a being exists?
based on the evidence that provided, like the supernatural
What
things,
evidence do
or
you have of anything outside the universe?
Okay. So according to me, the question itself has a problem. The question is about defining God. Well, if God is incomprehensible, because there is no theist in the world which I have met, maybe there are, who can say that God is comprehensible. You can comprehend the God with your mind. I have not found even one theist, and that includes me. So, how can you define something which is incomprehensible? You have got some thinking, some philosophical evidence, some things which you can understand. But at this point in time, you're asking to define. To define something, you need to know in the entirety. That is impossible. That question itself puts a theist in a disadvantageous position. No. And I know I do say that in this thing, the Indian Christian, the Christian Prince guy, he is saying that the definition of God. No, he should not get into the definition of God substance or the phraseology. We cannot define God. If God is comprehensible, maybe, do you see this small speaker? I can define it. But can I define God? No, I cannot. But what can I do? I can show you certain attributes of God or certain actions of God and thereby prove the existence of God. That doesn't mean that I'm going to give you in and out of everything that God is supposed to be. That is an impossibility. So let us take the definition of God part out of the purview of our discussion. And then the next point is, how do you prove the existence of God? Well, that is a valid question to somebody who is willing to learn, not a person who is going to, butt you around and say that, no, I'm not going to believe what you say. So let me give my small input on how do I believe, I personally believe the existence of God. And I am a theist, I believe in one religion, but I'm not going to push in the scriptures of my religion, the Bible, onto anybody because there has to be a common ground. When a Christian debates with another Christian, the Bible is the go to book because they both have some belief in that particular benchmark. When a Muslim and a Christian debates, the Christian should be well aware of the Quran of the Muslim to try to prove him his point. And vice versa, the Muslim should know about the Bible to prove his point. And if you cannot prove based on something which you believe, which the other person believes, that discussion or the argument is not going to last long. And in the same way, when a theist, I am a theist is debating or even discussing with an atheist, they will have to come to a mutually agreeable point. And that is not the scriptures, because scripture is not acceptable to the atheist. So, what is the acceptable point for both the parties? To me, it is basically what can be observed with your five senses, okay, and which can be confirmed by the atheist and the theist both together, and things like which is very generally acceptable to everybody, just like space, time, matter, life, all those things. I don't think any atheist will try to say that no, that's not non-existent. Then there is no point in discussion. And I am assuming that all these generally observable things is part of things which can be used to prove an argument. And if that is so, let me bring you an example.
Your definition of God is that, among other things, it is a being apparently outside the universe. How do you know there is anything outside the universe?
So, when a theist says that God is the creator of the universe, the seen and the unseen, and whatever there is, he is basically alluding to a very commonsensical fact. For example, let me take this same speaker which I showed you earlier. And can you see this speaker? Let me show you. You can see there is this Sony imprinted into it. And what does that tell you? It doesn't tell me that all of a sudden a Sony small speaker just bumped onto my table and it happened to be. There was no source of anything that you can attribute for the existence of this small speaker. It just popped out of nothing. This one popped out of nothing. So, if something can come out of nothing, there is no bigger logical fallacy than that. You have to attribute this vast expanse of the universe to something. Is there anything in this world that you can see which cannot be attributed to something? This mic, it can be attributed, it has to be attributed to the manufacturer, or this computer, or this things which made by men has to be attributed to another person. And is can you when I tell you that Sony, the corporation, the speaker corporation, it is outside of this speaker, is that logical fallacy? No, I don't think so. If God is the creator of this universe, he should not be logically sitting inside the universe and creating it around that. No, he is outside the universe. And how do we measure the universe? We measure the universe in terms of time, space, matter. Is there something else? Something else? And of course, life as well. So, if you are going to tell us that whatever you see and not able to observe, but there are things, maybe the radio waves or the microwave waves, the air which you cannot observe straight away but can feel, all those things have got no source to their existence. You are going into the sphere of logical fallacy. Anything that exists has to have a source. So when a theist says that there is a God, you can just change the name of the God to what? Supreme Being or deity or whatever it is. But there is something which is outside of this universe, which has created this universe. Is that a logical fallacy? Or an atheist telling another person, saying that, well, this doesn't have an origin or just happened by itself, which is the logical fallacy? Ask an atheist, how did the world come to be? They might, most atheists which I have friendship with or at least acquaintance with, they will say it's because of the Big Bang. Well, unfortunately for you, the Big Bang has to happen. And there has to be something which is outside the Big Bang which triggered the Big Bang. It just could not happen by itself. What is the big problem for all atheists to understand that very simple fact? But unfortunately, our atheist friends have to go that extra mile to believe something which is not possible. So, who is the real believer? I'm telling you, the atheists have to really have a leap of faith to believe that something came out of nothing, rather than a simple theist like me who just have to believe that, okay, God created it, and that is why that is what I'm seeing. Which is the bigger problem? Tell me, Mr. Mimo. I hope you understand my point. Now let me take you to something different.
When you didn't look at the actual text and the evidences they have, for example, if there's a book, so
Have you
you
read
have
all the
to
other books?
support it.
Have you read all the books from the other religions which claim that they have the right definition of God?
So as of now, whatever they claimed, I didn't find
Have you
any.
read all the other books that claim that they have the evidence of God?
A very interesting question, I should say. Usually, atheists tend not to ask questions of this kind because it can boomerang back in the form of another question which I have not seen any atheist ever having replied to. Now he is asking, has that particular person by name Christian Prince ever read all the religious books to give a confirmation of the existence of God? Well, he is asking him a very uphill task of having read and understood, not just read, understood, debated, and had some deep knowledge of different religious books to give an existence that his God is the God. That is not possible. That is absolutely not possible by a human. But then I would like to counter question Mr. Wimo, because the term atheists, by the very definition, means that he believes that there is no God. He believes there is no God or no creator or no life giver. But there is a very close group called the agnostic group. They basically say that they don't know if they have some evidence, or they're little more open group. But the atheist group is basically going ahead and publishing that there is no God. So, Mr. Vimal, which all part of the present, if you are in India, which all part of India have you gone? Which all part of the world have you gone? I'm very sure you have not gone the entire India, and you would have not gone the entire world. You would have not gone the entire solar system, you would have not gone the entire Milky Way galaxy, and leave alone the universe or else. So somebody who has not gone anywhere is just saying that there is no God. What would you call such a person? What have you observed? There are zillions and zillions of stars in this universe whom even the supposedly big NASA have no clue. And then here there is one gentleman called Vimo saying that there is no God. How logical is that? Tell me.
When it's accurate
If I have a
in
book
terms of the
that makes
events.
10 claims, if I have a book that makes 10 claims and 9 of them are correct,
Mhm.
is it logical to assume that the 10th one must also be correct?
So you need 100% of proof for anything, everything.
For something this serious, sure. I mean, definitely more than what you're offering. I gave you this example last
So
time, I think, about
yeah, so and
if it depends on the claim, right? If you come to me and say there's a bicycle standing outside my house, I'll say, okay, I won't go and check. If you say that unless you go outside your house and eat this tablet right now, your entire family will die in the course of the next 2 years, I will need more evidence of that, right? Because it's a more serious claim. If you're talking about God, it's a very serious claim. So you
okay, so
can't
when you
expect me
said
to put my faith in just
mhm,
randomly, oh, look, there is this book and it says something, it must be true. I need more than that,
okay,
right?
This is a very nice question. And to answer these questions, it might take a little more time. So let me give one after another. He said that out of 10 claims, 9 are proven to be right. And can you logically believe the next one will be true as well? Well, I think yes, most probably people will logically believe the next one would be true, or at least in your mind, you will give a very high probability for that being true. And maybe some 10% you can cast a doubt on that, but then generally, when the nine which has been proven to be true gives you an impetus to prove the 10th one. Isn't that how we humans are conditioned? Tell me. Okay. Now, as far as regarding claims are concerned, claims does not mean anything unless it has the backing of an evidence. And sometimes historical evidence has to be interpreted as its history, which is done with, done and dusted. So what are the evidences? It's basically writings of certain people, the lives of certain people, the events from corroborating by others, and it would even be more interesting if you have corroboration from some enemies of yours who said that yes, that is true. That's how we too believe that. Would that be sufficient to you, Mr. Vimo? I hope you will be. But if that is not sufficient to you, probably I will fail in my exercise to convince you. That's it. As a human, I have got no reason to say that I can convince you. No, I can just put up my case and you can say, yes, I get convinced or not. That's it. So now, when it comes to different religions, all religions, as far as I know, they use the term spirituality. Isn't it true? So what do you mean by the term spirituality? Because this is something, by the very terminology, it means something to do with the spirit inside man and inside God and the spirit world. But then what does it really mean to people who do not believe in spirituality? Probably you don't believe in anything spiritual and you would want to see everything physical or measurable from the physical senses point of view. That is where I would like to bring to you an example. Listen to this example carefully, and probably you might understand what I am telling you. Okay, so this is my way of explaining. And if you don't like my way of explaining or my examples, just shut down the video and go. That's not a problem with me. I'm just trying to explain. Do you see this stickman? It's basically a drawing of a man in on a piece of paper or on a piece of screen. And what am I doing? I am trying to give him some life by means of animation. He is able to walk forward, he can walk backward, he can go upward, go downward. But he is limited to the 2D space. He is in a 2D space. He has got no sense of the 3D space. Supposing this man is walking on a plain paper, I'm making him walk. And what I'm doing is that I'm going and putting my finger just while he is walking, just before him, in the 3D space. I'm in the 3D. He is only able to perceive the 2D picture. He is very flat. Length and breadth, that is what he is able to picture. Whereas I, being a 3D individual, can actually push my finger onto him. Just while he is walking, I'm just pushing a finger onto him. And in his understanding, he is seeing a circle coming in, because the circumference of my finger is basically the circle for him. He can see a circle coming in and obstructing his movement. All that he is able to perceive is that this kind of circle, what is it doing actually? I'm not able to move forward. But from a higher dimension, which I am in a 3D dimension, I can very clearly know that I have put my finger just before him, and that is obstructing his movement. To him, it's a circle, to me, it's my finger. So, in his thinking, in his understanding, he's not able to figure it out, and maybe he will give some ideology or something, but at a different dimension than him. He is now taking himself out of that 2D dimension and thinking about this could probably another being who is obstructing me, which I cannot explain here, but he is obstructing me. And then he thinks that, okay, this can happen only if there is a 3D person. If there is a 3D being, he will not even say it's a person, a 3D being is stopping me. Well, that is how spirituality has to be understood. I'm not telling that God brings obstruction into your life or anything, but I'm just trying to give you an example of how, when spirituality is concerned, that is not in this dimension in which we humans interact. God is beyond our dimension. He is not in the space, time, matter elements of the thing. He is beyond that. That is why he could create something which he is not. He could create time, space, matter, because he himself is spirit. He is outside our dimension and he can spirit, he can interact with us. But then sometimes certain mysterious things happen. We just have got no clue why it's happening. That is where the God factor clicks in. And you can't tell you that, oh, for everything there is a scientific evidence and all those things. There are hundreds and hundreds of things where there is no scientific evidence, and not because it's limited to our understanding, it has a spiritual realm. And I'm not ready to go to that in this episode, but in a later episode, I will try to bring that into your understanding. But this much I can tell you, that there is a dimension which is beyond our human dimension. We are basically 3D people. And what happens to the 4D, 5D? Einstein even went ahead and said there could be even 10 dimensions. 10 dimensions. So when Einstein, who is considered as one of the foremost scientists, when he could think that there are dimensions which is beyond our immediate interactive dimensions, why would you have a problem to think on that lines? So that much I can tell you now. Now coming back to certain evidences, which you said about earlier, if 9 evidences are true and 10 is what is the probability? This is where I come with my personal belief. You can say that, oh no, this guy is going crap, let me shut down. Go ahead and shut down, but I will tell you something more about my belief and why I believe in the evidence of the Bible. Let me see now. Keep this stickman story in your mind and understand for a fact that God is at a higher dimension and we humans are at a lower dimension. And if this stickman is able to communicate with we as me human. Suppose that there is a community of stickmen on that big sheet of paper and they are interacting among themselves. But if they have to interact with me, they cannot directly interact with me unless I come to their level, their lower dimension, and try to communicate with him. For example, I can go ahead and make a square on their paper, on that piece of paper, and they can see, oh, there's a square come up. Okay, somebody else is, which is not in our dimension, is typing a square. Somebody else has made a picture, a circle, or whatever it is. That is the way I can communicate with the stickman community. So, by that very example, what does it tell you that? It tells us that we cannot directly contact God, who is at a higher dimension, and converse to him at his level, but rather he will have to come down to our level and communicate with us at our level. And that kind of communication in theological circles are called prophecy. And that is given by God Himself to certain individual because He can interject into our human lives and give that communication to these people who is having a sense of a different realm and get them speak things to the entire community through them. So that is called prophecy. And in Bible it is called prophecy. In other scriptures as well, it is called prophecy, where the message of God is conveyed to human beings. I hope you understand that part. Now let me go to the next part. Well, the fun about prophecy is that you have to validate the prophecy. Any daydreamer can come and tell you something that will happen in the future, and would you call him a prophet? I think you will take a little bit of skepticism in your mind before you kind of evaluate. And that is very true for any human, and you should also be having that kind of validation. If I tell you that next year, this time, certain things will happen in such and such place, and suppose it happened, and I attribute that understanding which I give to you to some higher being who communicated that thing to me, well, what would you do? You would say that, yes, we agree that you did prophecy at certain point of time about certain events that would happen in the future. But then just one thing could be coincidence. How can it be a guaranteed sure shot? So what would be the next point? The next point is wait for the next prophecy or the next communication and see what other things he can tell about certain things happening in the future. And now even this came true. Wow, that gives an added confidence in the communication which is happening from the being who is above our dimension to certain individuals in our dimension. And then it happens, it happens, it happens. New prophecies are prophesied, new things happens. And what do you think is happening? At what level would you say that, yes, I agree there is certain dimensions on which certain beings are living, or one being is living and he is communicating to us, and hence we have to believe in that. So now that you have understood how the prophecies should be validated, now consider this book. This book is around 3,400 years at its starting point. The writing of the book started at 3,400, that is 1,400 BC. And that book ended its writing around after Christ, that is maybe 100 AD. That is the, so that means 1,500 years of historical and prophetical writings are written in that book. I hope you understood it. And now this book has a credibility which is built within it for all the prophecies which has been prophesied in it and which got fulfilled throughout the course of history. And there is not one prophecy which got failed. It has hundreds of prophecies which is fulfilled and hundreds of prophecies which is yet to come to pass. Until today, we see certain prophecies that is being fulfilled, which is written in that book. I don't want to really take you to some people in the biblical, arena and showcase to you so that you will believe. No, let me bring you to a scenario that is can be validated in our present day. Do you know there is a country called Israel in our present day? Israel in this modern times was established in 1948. But the country called Israel is basically entirely supposed to be a Jewish country. So, where did these Jews come from? Do you know that? Well, the history go ahead and tells us that the Jews were driven out of their land in 70 AD by Emperor Titus. And there is also a prophecy which tells us that they will be gathered back by their God into their land after a long period of captivity, or what they call is diaspora. If that 2000 year back history of some group of people, and Jews are not kind of huge number of people like Indians or Chinese or Europeans. No, they are very small. Actually, they were quite big, but they mingled with other people, and the Jewishness, the core of the Jewishness was retained by very fewer groups. And God said that those people will be brought back to their land. And if you study the history of present day Israel, they came back to their land in spite of all oppositions, and all the neighbors, the Arabs, they tried to pull them out right from the first day. But the promise of God saying that they will not be removed, they will be re-established back. Now you tell me, which being can give a confirmation of that kind if it is not God? Tell me. So I just brought you back an incident of history which can correlate to today's time with regards to Israel. But that is not the end all, because there are hundreds of prophecies which has happened and hundreds of prophecies which are yet to happen, and we will see the unraveling of all those prophecies in our lifetime and after our lifetime. And there is the last day which would happen at the end where everything will be called to short. Now let me take you to something which is even more important, which is written in the Bible. It's not simply written, it is the core message of the Bible. And it is not, as I mentioned, the Bible was written over 1500 years, and it is written by 40 different authors living in different time span. And these authors are not of certain category. There were kings, there were priests, there were prophets, there were fishermen, there were shepherds, and different professions of people in their secular life. But these people got connected with God, and they were the ones who prophesied about the events that would happen, and that is what we record in the Bible. So, the theme of the entire Bible is called the redemption of mankind. There is one reality, whether you are religious, irreligious, atheist, or materialistic, whatever, there is a reality which hits every human being. And that reality is called death. I will die one day. You will die one day. Everybody will die one day. But have you ever thought, why did it happen? How is it that we are dying and falling away? Our physical body is just decaying away. And then what is the hope for mankind? Well, this the story of the Bible is basically the redemption of mankind. And God did communicate about all these things in the Bible. So you would better do to read it. There was a prophecy when men fell down. You know the story of Adam and Eve. Probably you might laugh it off. But at that point in time, there was a prophecy which said very clearly that the seed of a woman will come and redeem mankind. Because this fall of mankind was caused by Satan, a spiritual being called Satan, and that seed of a woman would defeat Satan. By seed of a woman, what does it mean? It just means that virgin birth. If I have a son, he is born of my seed. But there is only one person in the history of mankind which would be born of a woman. That means a virgin birth. As you might be very well knowing that Jesus is believed by Christians and Muslims too as somebody who came into this world as a result of a virgin birth, because he cannot be polluted by other human activities. He has to be special. So he came and into the humanity. Just as I mentioned, the being at a higher dimension can enter into a lower dimension and not vice versa that way. So God became man. The story of God became man is how Jesus got born, because in the Bible, the virgin will conceive, and who will it be? It will be God Almighty Himself coming as human being, and He will come and redeem mankind out of the eternal curse called death. And how do you get? You might have seen the photographs or images of Jesus hanging on the cross. He died for us. That is the most miserable death he could have. And the reason for the curse entering is the sin. And to take away that sin, somebody has to die, because the wages of sin is death. And who has to die? Another human who is already a sinner, he cannot die, because if he dies, he is dying for his own sin. But somebody who is not sinful or he's sinless, he has to die as a propitiation for the sin of the entire mankind. And as a result, God incarnated. He died for us. And as he is God, he cannot entirely remain dead. He just rose back from the dead, and that is what we call as the resurrection. We Christians have a celebration called Easter. It is 3 days after Good Friday. It's rather, yeah, 3 days in the Jewish sense is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That the Sunday we celebrate Easter. What exactly is Easter? Easter is the resurrection back of Christ Jesus from among the dead. And it is attested by history. That is the fun fact. For example, who killed Jesus? It was the Jews and the Romans. And they buried him in a tomb, not in a grave, in a tomb, and sealed it with four quartets of Roman soldiers standing as guards against any fiddling with the body of Christ Jesus. And that four quartets is basically 16 soldiers. And when the governor has given the order to guard the body, so you might be thinking from the Indian way, okay, isko goose khila diya. I mean, we'll give some money to that guy and he can take away the body. No, because anybody who has been accused of dereliction of duty will pay with his life in a Roman legionary's term. So he cannot. But in spite of that, Jesus rose from the dead with a glorious body. Glorious body is not kind of, a very spiritual, unnatural body or anything which you cannot see. It was physical in nature, but it had a metaphysical power. People could see him, people could touch him, people could do all things with him, but that body is a resurrected body, which is not kind of our body. Our body is body made of flesh and blood, but his body does not have blood in it. It is a spiritual body. Spiritual body means just not visible, just like some hallucination happened. No, that is, if you read the Bible, people physically touched him, felt him, he ate food with them, and that is how it came. And the entire basis of the religion of Christianity is the resurrection of Jesus. Because if resurrection has not happened, there is no need for a religion called Christianity. The entire cornerstone of Christian faith is based on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. As in numbers term, Christianity is the largest religion in the world. It is having around 2.5 billion adherents as of now. So what do you think is the reason for these people believing all these things? Are they just believing some stupid lies? Or is there some experience behind it? And the fun is that the life story of Jesus and all these things is attested by people who has seen Jesus, who has experienced Jesus after his resurrection. And these people, they did not mint a story to make people believe some nonsense, but rather they went all the way to their death believing that they were killed. They did not die a natural death as many people die here. They were killed, they were martyred. For what reason? For telling that, yes, they saw the resurrected Christ. Why would 11 of the apostles of Jesus do that? Tell me. Actually, it's more than 11, but 11 of the core, the first 12. So, why would they do that? Tell me. They have to believe it. And why would they believe a lie and they die themselves for a lie? Because you quoted in your sentence that because it's a matter of life and death, it is such an important thing. So, I need to know for sure. And these people are giving a surety of what they are preaching with their own lives. Is there anything more surety that you would need than this? Tell me. Okay, so I have done enough of preaching, I think. I don't want to really elongate and sound it so preachy. But then, if Mr. Vimo would reply back to this video, I might consider replying back in another video. Other than that, there is no reason for me to continue this particular video. And now may the good Lord bless you and keep you till we meet again. Bye for now. Bye bye.